All righty. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the February meeting of the trustees of the Waltham Public Library. At this point, I'd like to call the meeting to order. It looks like we have all of the current trustees present, and we're welcoming today Deb Fasulo, the Assistant Library Director, who is going to sit in ably for the director for today's meeting.
Okay.
And with that, I'd like to call the minutes of the January meeting. Everybody had a chance to review them. They look pretty good to me, as usual. Thank you again.
I move to accept the minutes. I didn't see anything.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Clearly passed. And the expenditure report. Looked to be about where we wanted to be, I think. Were there any inside comments from you, Deb, or was it pretty well as appeared?
No, budget looks pretty good. We're exactly where we're supposed to be. Steve, if you're doing math over there, we should be at 58%.
Thought I heard the
looked good.
calculator buzzing.
I already did the other day.
Okay, excellent. Yep. Kelly's still working on moving over the state aid, so that ought to appear in here come probably March or so.
Okay.
Any questions?
Not that I have.
None.
Anybody
Okay.
care to move to place the report on record?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Steve and then Maureen.
Maureen.
Yep.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Whatever.
Aye.
Aye. Clearly passes. Alrighty, and report on library operations.
Right. So statistically, our circ stats are not unexpected considering our hours. We're open about 60% of our hours, and we're getting about 60% of our normal circs. So that feels on par with sort of normal, even though it's not feeling all that normal. We're holding steady at about 13th place in terms of Minuteman libraries. All of the libraries that are beating us are larger populations and mostly libraries that have branches. So I feel okay about that. But we're number 7 in the network for e-materials. So that feels like we're getting the message out and, you know, getting people to borrow things in ways that they don't have to come and visit us at the moment. So that's good. Personnel wise, so since mid-December, all city employees have been working 50% in their offices and 50% at home. So for us, that looks like 1 week on and 1 week at home. This means that the library staff that are in the library have to focus almost exclusively on serving the public, staffing the phones, running for the holds for people, patrons coming in, processing the requests from the shelves and the deliveries, all the check-ins and all of the shelving. Almost nothing else happens because with only half the staff, they're all needed to get the public service done. The planning stuff and the HR stuff and the administrative stuff and all of the book ordering mostly happens during at-home weeks. So on the one hand, this is sort of fun, grassroots, public service and shelving and that's kind of fun. Kelly's on one group and I'm on the other week, and the department heads are all split up, and I feel like the camaraderie of my group has been really fabulous. There's this sort of pride competition to make sure we leave the building in better shape for next week's team than they left it for us. And the result is that it's always pristine, which is, it's kind of fun to make sure we left it in good shape. And so that's actually working out really well. But it's physically very tiring to be all public service all the time. So the week that you're in the library, you're doing nothing but running around and shelving and getting holds for patrons and being on the phones and being on your feet and that sort of thing. For me, that means an in-library week for me means 16,000 steps a day on my Fitbit.
Wow.
Versus like 5,000 on a in my office kind of day.
Wow.
So that's sort of a measurable difference, right?
That should be advertised as a benefit for working at the library. You don't have to maintain your gym membership.
Every other week, my Fitbit reports like, what did you do? And why didn't you do that again this week?
But average, you're doing okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting measurable. I mean, we all feel tired at the end of the day, but we actually have some measurable differences there. On the other hand, it's a little mentally interesting to leave your at-home project at the end of a Friday and then not go back to that project until your next at-home week, Monday, 10 days later. It takes your brain a little bit to sort of get back in, like, where did I leave off with this?
Yeah.
The result is that everything is slower because you're working on a project every other week in some cases. But it's the times, right? It is what it is.
Mhm.
When I come in to pick stuff up, the staff seems just to have great morale going. You know,
the camaraderie and the
they
teamwork.
really like being there, and
it has been, considering, like, we all sort of feel like we're in this together, we're going to get through it together and it's going to be fine, but it is different for sure.
And it's exhausting to have to be up all the time, especially if it's not in your normal job. You know, just the public facing part of it. It's just tiring.
It is.
No matter how good it might be, and no matter how well it works, it's always tiring. At least for me.
No, it's
having to be
definitely a
on.
different way of using your bandwidth. And I think that's true of, pretty much everything COVID wise, but
Yeah.
But in general, things have been clean. We've been safe. We've been lucky that we've had 0 cases of COVID amongst the staff. We've had a few possible exposures and some
quarantines,
but 0 sick staff. So
it's good.
fingers crossed we can keep that going for us. We expect to hear from the mayor at some point later this week. I know it's already Thursday, on an update on this 50% staffing situation and the duration of that. Any questions on any of that before I move on?
Are people
Aside from
moving
those-
toward double masking?
Sorry.
Yeah, some staff are, and some staff are, when they work with, the turnover of a lot of patrons, maybe not so much when they're in the stacks by themselves, mostly kind of thing. So yeah, staff are definitely taking whatever we've got PPE, we've got face shields, we've got tools for staff to use whatever they need and feel necessary.
Good.
When you're not, I'm trying to figure out what my question is. You've got the challenges of when you're at 50, 1 week on, 1 week off. Is the staff good with if it were to suddenly change back, or at some point when it does change back, or, I guess a lot of that's going to depend on the conditions under which it goes back, but was the staff okay before with everybody?
Yeah, the staff is incredibly, they're incredibly flexible, and they realize no one is changing up the rules and the conditions just to poke them with the stick.
Oh, yeah.
And so everybody sort of realizes that things are changing minute to minute, and when things can change to something else, that's what we'll do next. And they are aware of the fact that they might think they're at home next week. Like, I might think I'm at home next week, but really turns out, nope, we're all back in the building now.
Right, but when you're all back in the building, people are comfortable working. The conditions are good. It seems like they have been, from what you said.
Yeah, they have been. We've gotten really practiced at having conversations from 8 feet apart and being aware of, stepping back and giving each other space to move through with a cart full of books, and, only one of us uses the elevator at a time. And, it's been a while now, so we're practiced at it, and we're good at calling each other on, like, oh, whoops, can I just ask you to step aside for a second so I can get in the way of that hold shelf while that you're working at to
Yeah.
pull a book for a patron who's waiting. And nobody's feeling like they're being pushed around. We're all very polite and understand what the other staff members are trying to do, and it's been fine.
I got a couple questions. One, I assume the phone volume is up because of people calling in to reserve and things of that nature.
Yeah, phones, it comes and goes. There are definitely people getting more adept at placing their own requests. And
Okay.
we're doing our best social media wise to give people tips and tricks and links to videos on how to do those things for themselves if they need, but also tech appointments. People have been coming to virtual tech appointments, and that's been helping folks who need help with, learning how to use some of these virtual things, whether it's Zoom or Overdrive or downloadable, what have you.
Okay. Are we having a lot of cars out in the parking lot now with the Wi-Fi, or people standing outside with their computers?
Little bits, not a huge horde or anything. I would say for the most part, if we don't have a snow emergency, there's probably 4 to 5 cars in the parking lot at any given time. Most of those are patrons physically coming in to pick up items or print, things of that nature.
All right, and just kind of getting back to now, you had mentioned it's kind of like half every other week and the other half the other week, and you're getting some great team camaraderie and all of that good stuff, which is nice. If this is going to be going for a while longer, does it make sense to kind of break up the two teams, like half and half again, so you can kind of build up some camaraderie from each of the ones, so they kind of almost rotate together?
Yes and no. Part of the point of the two teams is that if somebody on one team were to be sick, we'd have an entire second team to carry on if that whole team needed to quarantine. So part of the point of the 50% deal is to keep our staffs separate. In the event that someone were to get sick, the entire staff can't be sick at once.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Sure.
Just to take that the next step to ask the what question, if a whole half of the staff had to quarantine, what would happen? Would you split the healthy half and half again and kind of lump along at a quarter staff, or
it might be that, or it might be that, or it could be that maybe we have to scooch some smaller hours because there probably wouldn't be enough to go around that way. But also the strict definitions of a close contact is that you've got to spend 15 minutes within 6 feet of each other. So even if you say over the course of, say, a 4-hour shift, we'd have to spend 15 minutes within 6 feet. And we're working very hard not to do that. The building's also being cleaned before we open and at midday at all of the places where the staff are working. So, there's very little chance for contamination between us. So it would be pretty unlikely that the entire half a crew would have to quarantine at once.
Okay. Good. Sounds very thoughtful.
We're trying. This is not anything anyone ever taught in library school.
Right. Yet another thing. Huh?
Yeah, add it to the list, right?
Those Santa porties out in the front yard are very attractive too.
Yeah.
They are. They definitely go with the brickwork. But they're very helpful to the patrons that we're not able to have inside who would normally have access to our bathroom facilities. So if that's the way that we help out, that's the way we help out.
Whatever it takes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Good. Let's see. So I guess that was personnel. Anything on Minuteman or?
So otherwise personnel, you have a letter from our pages, I believe.
Yes.
Kelly had requested a salary increase in the previous year's budget, and in midst of COVID and everything else, that was not approved at that time. She does have it in mind to ask for a pay increase for them again this year, assuming there are no objections from you all. Our ultimate goal is to aim for $15 an hour. That puts it, more in line with a minimum wage and similar to other libraries. Ultimately, we would love to really nurture the next generation of librarianship amongst our young and diverse population of student workers. So that's our plan, is for Kelly to put that in her budget. Does that make sense to you all?
Sure.
Yeah,
Would it make sense, I want to get a feeling from the other board members, would it make sense to have a sense of the board motion in favor of including $15 an hour item for the pages?
Can I ask one question regarding that?
Sure.
If we do, one of the big issues tends to be that when all these cities, towns, and states are raising minimum wages, that's fine, but there are less jobs available. Is there the potential that if we go from 11 to 15 and say, okay, we're going to pay 15, we're going to actually lose pages, so that if we had 10 pages, we're now down to 8 pages that are getting better paid?
I don't have any indication that that would happen. We don't have a line item of you can only ever have 10 pages. So it would really be up to the financial state of the city. I imagine we would not lose personnel that way.
Okay. And I think I saw somewhere where other departments are paying at least $14 for these same workers.
Direct
Similar types
Yeah.
of positions like
Yeah.
temporary summer student work.
Yeah, so there's no
Our-
reason. Yeah, so there's no reason other than the city can do it to pay less than 14.
Yeah, we just have to ask for it and get it through and approved in the budget.
I'd like to make, I'd definitely like to throw my support behind the $15 that sounds like is being proposed. And I don't know what a feeling of the board kind of, Alan, you can guide us through that if you need a motion.
Well-
Or if you just get the feeling by,
I guess my quick
Asking
understanding
us.
of it is that it may or may not need to be approved as a specific line item by the city council
I see.
outside of the budget itself. But while that gets wrestled out, I would like to suggest that that we have a motion as a sense of the board.
Actually, can I ask one more question?
Yep, you bet.
Regarding this? One of the things that happens is there are certain, not necessarily, I don't know about the library, but one of the reasons that you see a lot of times unions that don't pay, that pay far above minimum wage, the reason why they're all set up for higher minimum wages is because of union contracts are set on what the local minimum wage is. Do we know if there are any union contracts that is based upon the lowest pay, your salary is based so much above the lowest paid employee or anything of that nature?
Not that I'm aware of, and not that I'm aware of anywhere in the city, to my knowledge. And our students are all considered temporary employees, basically, because they work for us as long as they are a student. And so they are not part of any union that would protect that, which is part of the reason we sort of need to go to bat to ensure that our budget in that area is healthy enough to pay the students a good wage.
Fine, like I said, I just don't want to have us doing something, have some unintended consequences.
Well, that's a good concern. And I feel fairly confident that the mayor or the council would be cognizant of any unintended consequences as well and put the damper on it. But in the meantime, would somebody care to move to recommend as a sense of the board that we go forward with including the pages at $15 an hour in our next budget?
Would like to make that motion.
All right.
Second.
We got Martha and Maureen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Thank you. I think that's a real good thing to be doing for the pages. It's a great profession, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Minuteman wise, there's no major news. We continue to be in contact with each other about, okay, how are you dealing with this roadblock and how is this curbside thing happening? But for the most part, there's no major movement happening there. The only other thing that I have is a few programming notes. One of our Black History Month programs that took place on February 3rd, called Black History and Racism in America, Where Do We Go From Here? Featuring Michael Curry, has 975 views on our YouTube channel.
True. Yeah, that's
It's a great
awesome.
program.
Wow.
It's really terrific that our programming is A, going strong, and B, reaching more people than ever because of it's talk about
So it's more able to attend.
unintended consequences. It's
Yeah.
great to be able
It's
to reach
amazing.
more people this way.
Right.
People who can watch when it's convenient if our air time wasn't or our program time wasn't convenient to them. This is terrific. We also had a really terrific teen room real talk group. Spoke with the author Jennifer DeLeon, Conversation with Community. She's written a book, and the kids did a really amazing job facilitating this conversation with the author about race and equity. That's also on our YouTube channel if you'd like to check that out. As far as upcoming programs, Life After Coma, Caroline Levitt in her book With or Without You. That program was actually supposed to happen a couple of weeks ago and had some technical glitches, so it's been rescheduled, and it's now happening on Wednesday, February 17th at 7 o'clock, or watch it again later on YouTube. Most of our regular ongoing programs like story times and English classes and technology sessions are all happening virtually.
Yeah.
So, just go to the website, walthampubliclibrary.org. Under the events banner there, you can see the calendar of what's upcoming or YouTube events to see what's already happened. So that's about all from me. Do you have any questions?
Oh, it's great. I'm glad the word's getting out.
Yeah.
Are they getting publicized in the Globe and that sort of thing? Or, like the weekly calendar?
Good question. That's a good question. I should look into that and find out for you.
Okay. Great. Any news on the Friends?
So the Friends, yes, I batted out of order a little, sorry. The big thing that we've been working on with the Friends recently is on hiring a firm to do some equity, diversity, and inclusion training here in the library. The team of library staff has been working for months on finding firms that teach this work, meeting with them virtually to interview their staff and get proposals. We've done reference checks with the organizations who have worked with some of these firms. And the Friends are actually preparing to fund a 2-year, potentially $50,000 program of workshops and trainings and policy review and that sort of thing. So Steve, you'll hear more about this in your upcoming investment committee meeting.
Okay.
But that's what they've been working on very recently.
Good. That sounds exciting.
It does. We're planning to include some of the Friends board, and I believe you all are to be invited to any of these trainings. So it should be interesting, exciting conversation to have. Yeah.
Good. And I guess we
Anything else that I missed?
What's that? It looks like
I was just looking to see if there was anything else I missed in my notes.
it sounds like we kind of got the COVID update as well, in terms of plans.
Yes. Well, that personnel and COVID, they sort of go together these days.
Oh,
In the right ways.
In the right ways, exactly.
Good. Do we have any new business?
Not at the moment.
Don't believe so. Let's see, and then unfinished business. Looks like, excuse me, with Kelly not being present, we can probably table those items. And that would move us on to announcements. Anything new and exciting to be looking forward to?
No, I would say keep an eye on the events calendar and the programming.
Yeah,
And
there's been a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. So whether you're in person or virtual, visit us anyway.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other items we wanted to discuss? If not, I guess a motion to adjourn would be appropriate.
So moved.
All righty. Do we have a second?
Sure, second.
All righty. Martha and Maureen, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion clearly passes. Call adjournment of the February meeting of the Waltham Trustees of the Public Library.
Great.
Thank you all for attending.
Thanks for stepping in.
You're
Deb.
welcome.